Live, pulling up the notes. Here we go. Corley Moore, Firehouse Vigilance. It is weekly scrap number 111. My very special guest tonight is Danny Dwyer. Unless you lived under a rock, you have seen the Danny would go. He started out life in California, but ended up in Georgia, started fighting fire when he was 19 years old, went to Atlanta in 2004, where in his words, he had a hell of a run. Moved on in 2020 from Atlanta, which is something we will talk about. So, Danny, my brother, welcome to Scrap episode number 111.
Corley, thank you very much, buddy. I've been looking forward to this for quite a while, and especially after getting some introductions with you in Wichita, man. This is going to be great. Thank you so much, and I can't be more honored and still kind of blown away that I'm sitting here doing this with you. So,
dude, I'm super excited. So it's likewise, yeah. So. Very much so. Is there anything I missed in the intro? Anything you'd like to add?
No, man, you nailed it. You nailed it. Just like you said, grew up in California and then Louisiana and then Georgia. And it's sad, but a good thing. But I've been here much longer than anywhere else in my life. And this is home. Just got to throw that out there for all you people that were wondering, much like myself. But yeah, man, Georgia's a great place. Been here for 26 years now.
Okay. I was going to ask, did California, the Cajun life, or did Georgia have the biggest impact on you? But that much time, it has to be Georgia, right?
All three. And there are several people that really scratch their heads during the year at my sports allegiances. I've got some very, very strange ones. And it's, okay. All three places shaped me how I am with attitude, with food, the whole 9 yards. But yeah, I think looking back, it was a perfect amount of time spent in each place, without a doubt. Nice. Got a lot from everywhere.
Nothing you're changing.
Yeah, all not right. A thing, man. I wouldn't change a thing for the world.
Well, then kick it right out the gate. Audience is getting in here. Get your questions ready. Here we go. I'm going to read a few. I've got Clay McGee yelling Danny with 5 exclamation points. Repping the Bravos. Go, my Danny. But he got it Geaux, Danny. Go, Danny. What's up, homie? Going to be a good one. Welcome. Good evening. Go Braves. Lots of Braves. Okay. That's enough. That's enough of that baseball talk. It's over.
No, we're going to ride this one for a while. We got to.
You rode the last one for a while, right?
Oh my God. Yeah.
All right. Okay. That's enough busting. Okay. I'm going to start right out the gate with the fire that completely changed your life. We'll kick it up, tee it up and kick it off right there with that. And I'll let you run with it and go any direction you want. And people throw questions or comments if you want to hear something.
Okay. Well, June 28th of 2019, I was riding up as a captain that night. My captain was off riding the truck 16 at Northwest Atlanta. The long and short, we were dispatched to a fire that was way out of our territory, had a pretty extended response time, somewhere around, I want to say, 8 minutes for the first engine to arrive, which is an eternity for us. We've got about 4.5 square miles per engine company. So, all six, your first 6 due rigs are there within minutes of each other. And this was a pretty long run. And it kind of throws your thinking off en route because, why are we going down there? Even being on the ladder truck, we didn't run into that territory very often. So I'm scratching my head the whole way there. The comments look good on the computer, like we got something working. And, of course, everybody's keyed up a little bit. And the first due engine officer arrives, a very good friend of mine, extremely competent fireman, hell of a captain. He got there, gave a working fire on a one-story frame over basement, 4-sided brick ranch, established command, ran through his whole thing. So he gets out, does his 360, comes back on the radio and says, we have a confirmed entrapment. I told the guys in the rig that it was me and 2 drivers on a 103-foot TDA tiller truck.
Okay.
So we didn't have a 4th guy, unfortunately. And so it was myself and 2 drivers. And I just made sure that they heard, said, guys, we got a confirmed entrapment. I'm going to go get us an assignment. Meet me on the A side, which was our MO. I think every good truck officer in that organization, that's what they do. So we arrived as the 5th due piece of equipment, 2nd truck in Atlanta. Your 2nd and 1st truck are interchangeable. One is vent, one is primary, depending on what the needs were. Technically, 1st due truck kind of got screwed on that deal, and they got assigned. I think they were assigned to throw ground ladders. And we were given primary. So worked well for us. And I remember looking at my buddy that was captain on 25's truck, and I'm like, sorry, man, you lose this one, Again, we knew we had an entrapment, but those were sometimes, we were still operating like normal. There was nothing other than a little bit of heightened radio traffic and a sense of urgency by the first few guys. Everything was rolling like normal. There was nothing out of the ordinary. It was a bread and butter job when we got there. The video that was shown online in the media and social media was post-flash. What we had when we arrived was fire out Bravo Charlie corner on a one-story frame. Everybody's been to one of those. If you've been on the job 5 minutes, you've been to a bedroom fire, and it coincidentally was a kitchen. But nevertheless, once we popped the front door, we had good smoke pushing out the front, maybe chest high, but it wasn't pressurized. There wasn't a high speed to it. It was just pushing from the, filtering its way to the front.
Right.
And so we had a quick conversation on the front steps. At the same time, the captain's giving me a verbal to get him a primary. Incident commander has given us a primary over the radio. I acknowledged it. Again, my two drivers we spotted the apparatus about 100, just a shade over 100 feet from the front door. They had to get out. They had their night pants on, their turnout pants. They had to get their coats, tools, helmet, whole 9 yards. And that's what we do. They got to get dressed. It is what it is. And there was some questions and discussion about whether they were dragging ass, and I wanted to spell that immediately. They did exactly what they were supposed to do. They were where they were supposed to be, exactly when they were supposed to be there. So I went up to the A side, again, face to face with the captain, got a primary. Engine pushes in with a charged hand line, protecting the rescue exactly how they were supposed to do. I gave them a couple feeds of hose, fell in right behind them. Again, these were ideal conditions. Out of the fires that I've been on that we had an entrapment, this was probably the best conditions for survivability that I've been on. And I remember that, remembering that it's like, damn, this is good. We got a good shot here. I took a step into the living room. I think we were somewhere a tick over 1,200 square feet. Easy, small house.
Right.
They pushed in straight down the hallway. I went in, made a quick left, crawled maybe 10 feet, and found the victim lying on the floor in an opening between the dining room and the living room.
Okay.
Tried to get out on the radio, couldn't get out because of some other unnecessary radio traffic that was going on, and just started pulling her towards the door. About 6 feet from the front door, flow path, everything changed, house lights off, and that was a wrap for her at that point, unfortunately. But we were able, anyway, got her out the front door, and in the video, you see two guys coming up the steps with me on the front porch. Those are the truck guys. So Todd and I clocked it on the helmet cam, and we were somewhere around 57 seconds from the time across the threshold to back to the threshold. So pretty quick. And Again, these guys had to get their tools and equipment, get dressed, 100-foot trot up to the house. They were where they were supposed to be. So again, she expired in the front yard. And that was that for the fire. I mean, the after effects, we did an after action the following shift that went sideways. There were a lot of things that happened on that incident that were really close. We had some major issues. And the two guys that were on the engine, the captain and the nozzleman, were very lucky that they're still walking around the earth today. They had a burn through on the hose, and if they weren't running some really good key combat, they're not here.
Yeah, you had those pictures of that hose, and it was pretty.
Yeah,
amazing.
that was an eye opener. And again, we didn't even notice the hose until 3 hours later. And this is, again, because of the fatality. We got there just before 1 o'clock, and we didn't leave till almost shift change. It was like 6:30 when we pulled out of there. So we didn't notice the hose until we were picking up. And we were like, holy shit. So again, there were some issues with the first two captain, with another officer that was there. And so there was a lot of bickering. It was not a clean after action. So an hour or so into it, the incident commander, who that night, kind of came up and was like, hey, what happened? Told him what went on, gave me a little fist bump. It's like, good job. You good? Yeah, I'm good. We're friends. The guy had run 95% of my fires that I've been on the last, probably the 3 years prior, maybe even 4. So we were good friends, had a good relationship. There was no bad blood there. I think that he tried to make an example of me at the after action in front of a bunch of guys that I'd never met. There was, again, we were out of the battalion. We were way out of the battalion. So there's a lot of guys I remember looking at that were at the after action I'd never seen before.
Right.
And he everybody goes around, what did you do? What did you see? Blah, 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 blah. And he gets to me and he's like, truck 16, what'd you do? What'd you have? I told him, I said, we got here. And he goes, who'd you have with you? And I was like, here we go.
Okay.
And so I told who I had on the truck and he goes, no. Who was with you inside? I said, the 2 members off of engine 22. And he goes, so you were inside by yourself? I said, no, 2 guys off engine 22 were with me. And we go back, it was very calm. There wasn't any, and he basically accused me of freelancing. And I took every ounce of energy I had to bite my tongue. And I just respectfully said, hey, look, Chief, we've been friends a long time. I respectfully disagree with you. And gave him my reasoning for that. And long story short, the following shift which was a Wednesday, I came into work and had an email from our internal affairs that I had charges being filed on me for, I think, conformance, basically not following a directive. So, that kind of did its thing. The next few, that was in June of 19. The punishment didn't come down until February of 20, which in that organization with the size and backlog of stuff, it takes a while to run through everything. Right. But there was an internal investigation done by another chief officer that was not at the incident. She found me or found the charges sustainable. Is that the word? So she kept them, kept the charges. And again, there was so much scuttlebutt surrounding this. And this is way before anything ever hit the media. The media didn't get involved until the day the punishment came down.
Gotcha.
And there was so much about it within the organization. The fire chief's cousin or somebody came up and he's like, man, you're gonna be good. They're just gonna sweep it under the rug. And my big thing was like, look, I at the time I didn't care about the charges. I've had charges on me before. Some stuck, some haven't. It is what it is. Part of life there. My big thing was there was a lot of things that happened on that incident tactically that I did not want to see continue. We can learn from it. I have referenced the Meadowood Court fire in Virginia for the better part of a decade now, I think. Excellent opportunity for an organization to take what they did wrong and show the world what they did wrong and how they can correct it, and that was always like top notch for me. And that was the first one I can remember where they had, decent video from a bystander. Right. I mean, everything was just spot on. And for that being 2008, 2009, I don't remember when it was now, technology was good. I mean, it was spectacular. So I applaud those guys for that. I wanted the same thing for us. Even if they didn't want to go external with it, I was like, give me the tools, give me the time. As much as I despise Target Solutions, it's a good way to get stuff out to a large organization that spans a wide area without having to rotate companies through a training center for a year and a half, right? They were like, yeah, Lou, we got you. We'll do whatever we got to do. And of course, that never happened. And that was the biggest frustration with me is they were more concerned with punishing me for something that they pay me to do. And they've spent, I don't know how many tens of thousands of dollars over my career there to train me to do exactly what they did.
Right.
Or what I did. And we had a split second decision and a time frame to make a quick, clean grab. And it was done regardless of whether I don't know whether she would have lived or not, had that flash not happened. Nobody knows. And I'm not dwelling on that. But the problem is they were so concerned with one person's feelings and the negative effects that my decision making could have had on the organization. Like, well, we can't have young guys doing what you did. And I'm like, well, then tell them not to. Moreover, I wouldn't have made that call with 2 years on the job. I don't know if I'd make that call tomorrow. It was one of those things where you take it all in a split second and you go make Lou Rafrano. He's like, you got to make a move.
Right.
I didn't run down a checklist. I didn't look and go, well, we got this and this and this. It's just one of those, one of those situations that people get put into sometimes. But they didn't want the organization, the younger members of the organization, to go out and go rogue and do crazy things like saving people from fires. I don't know. So
that's great.
there was a lot of scuttlebutt again for 6-8 months within the organization about, the very next shift we had a fire, first due. Well, I come in and like I said, my captain was off for an extended few shifts, and I come into work the next day and they had hired another captain to cover the truck. I'm like, what are you doing here? Because normally in a double company in Atlanta, you are the lieutenant of the company, the captain's off, he's on the car, you slide over, you ride up. Well, apparently they didn't trust me that day. So they hired another captain. Of course,
Gotcha.
we have a fire. 1 o'clock in the morning, engines first due. We stretch, go do our thing. Well, our on-duty shift commander shows up, and I'm like, "Hey, Chief, what's up?" He's like, "Hey, man, what's happening?" And I was like, "What are you doing here?" And he's like, "I got to come to y'all's fires now." And I was like, "Excuse me," So it was, I don't know, but
Gotcha.
it had I don't know that it had a negative effect on. It definitely was a little bit different moving forward. After that, I got some weird looks from some people. My captain had at the time was kind of pissed off about it until I explained to him that this is a position that anybody that's on this job for the right reasons would do.
Right.
And at the end of the day, if that was his grandmother in the house, what do you want from me? That's it. Plain and simple. That is your mother. If you disagree with what I did, if you disagree with somebody that's been on the job for 20 plus years at the time and is trained to a certain level that they want, that's what I want them to do.
No, it doesn't get any more clear cut than that question.
Risk, right? Isn't that what you're supposed to do?
Yeah, it doesn't get any more clear cut than your question you just asked, man. I mean, that's the so roughly 7 months from the time it happened until that you had to be. I mean, how was that trying to keep morale up while it was all going at the time, or was it just kind of just?
It was within the company that I was assigned to at the time. There wasn't a whole lot to talk about. It just kind of was like, hey, we're just not going to say anything. There was a lot of scuttlebutt within again, guys that are really into the job. They're like, hey man, what happened? Massive bullshit, blah, 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 blah. And I think that anybody in that department that had been around for a little while and enjoyed going to work and doing their job, we all knew that this could happen. We knew they were itching to make an example of somebody. They tried to get one of my best buddies that I was we rode tailboard together. I drove him as a lieutenant. I mean, one of my best buddies, they tried to get him on some similar stuff a few years earlier. He retired. And we knew it could happen. I just damn sure did not think it was going to happen to me. And
right.
I really didn't think it was going to happen because of this fire. It's like you go to work, you do your thing, and next thing you know, you made a career altering decision that I still stand by.
Right.
But again, everything happens for a reason. If it didn't happen, I'm not sitting here. Not if it didn't happen. If Facebook hadn't have done what it did,
right.
I'm not sitting here talking to you. You know what I mean? So it's all been it's been an interesting ride to say the least. Just when I think I'm kind of riding off into the sunset and everything's getting quiet, something pops back up on Instagram or Facebook again, and
no. Hey,
it is what it is, man. I don't think anybody. I didn't hear anybody that was like, oh, you didn't, nobody to my face said that I did the wrong thing. Other than the battalion chief. And there were some minds were changed above him, but once the ball's set in motion, there's no real going back from that. The fire chief had the opportunity to squash it. He didn't. And at that point, 7 months had transpired.
Right.
I went from being a little nervous about having charges on me to being pissed that I was being suspended for something that this is what you pay me to do. They paid me handsomely. Atlanta paid well as an officer. And I was like, man, you really?
Right.
And it wasn't about the 48 hours. It was a principle in the whole thing. I'm like, how can you possibly suspend anybody for doing this? And that's when I was pissed. And I was like, I told my union boss, I was like, I think the words were, let's burn it to the ground. And it was really to put it out. They released a statement to the local press. There were some people within the media that are very fire department friendly with the Atlanta guys. And they all had heard rumor about it. And we were just like, hey, we're going to keep it quiet until it's time. And, when it was time, we dropped it. And we expected to hit the local media.
Right. It went supernova.
And I literally went to bed it hit the news during dinner. It's like 6 o'clock. And me and the guys are sitting there, we're like, oh, they're like, you're fucked. They're just kind of giggling about it. And we ran a few calls. About 11 o'clock, Facebook was going a little crazy. And I'm like, oh, man, I remember texting Paul. And I'm like, man, we might have screwed up. And then by like 8 o'clock the next morning, it was over. I mean, it had gotten legs and continued to get legs for a long time. And still sometimes, sorry, it seems like my dog's choking on something in the background if you can hear that. But so yeah, man, it's social media, people sharing stuff. It's a very, very, very powerful thing to say the least.
Yes.
Can you hear that in the
I
background?
can hear him. He's working on a hairball. David Mellon said, my man Danny. All hell reps. Everett said, good evening, brothers. Dustin Martinez says, the difference between freelance and foresight is outcome. When the rules in the mission create a dilemma or meet in the gray, which is expected to come first? So
It's a deep thinker, that guy.
He is.
I like that.
Wish I was able. Oh, yeah, we got Brad.
And Dave, thank you very much. Dave and Dave, I guess, knew Dustin from a class or something he had done. And Dave and I had a great conversation. He shared a really cool story with me. So thank you, Dave, very much. And I really appreciate everything. I think about it a lot. So.
No, and David even said, went a little further than the ATL.
Yeah.
And then
a little bit.
John Vincent Buchan said, Ryan Buchan, John, anyway, I'll get it right. Social media has changed the fire service so much over the last 10 to 15 years. Today's youngsters have no idea how much stuff was swept under the rug back in the day.
And it's also been really beneficial. There are pluses and minuses. There are guys, stuff was swept under the rug, and then I don't remember. I think it's Billy Goldfeder maybe coined the phrase social media assisted career suicide, something to that effect.
Yeah.
Guys have lost their jobs. I've had buddies get suspended for stuff that they put on Facebook just as a joke.
Right.
But at the same time, I may be going out on a limb here. These smaller grassroots conferences that are popping up, Cody Trestrell stuff, Into the Job, all these things that are popping up all over the country, the stuff in Texas. I mean, they're like little spot fires popping up everywhere. I don't think they would have the traction that they would if we didn't have Facebook and Instagram and have that connection. Things used to go out like you'd see the little string and tacks on a board, and now it's just like it goes everywhere. I mean, it's nuts.
It's not a spider web anymore. It's more like a quilt.
God, it's bananas, man. And the people that know this guy, that know that guy, it really makes you scratch your head a lot.
Kevin Trapchak said, sometimes I feel like the higher people move up in the ranks, the further away from the mission they get.
That's Kevin, what's up, buddy? I met him last year at Water on the Fire. Great guy. There is something to be said for that. And I may catch some flack for this, but regardless of what happens, you've got to protect your guys, right? I think that's the cornerstone of, God, it sounds cliche, but it's the bedrock of everything about being an officer. And if you don't protect your guys, you lose your company, you lose your battalion. But it's such a fine line you got to toe. You got to protect your guys, but there's also, a lot of guys won't dive on a grenade for their own job. Right. If that, and I'm not saying that this guy did, but if that had gotten back and, Atlanta's famous for hammering the officer. If he didn't write a guy up for a blatant policy violation and they found out about it, he was going to tote paperwork. So it's kind of like
where's the line?
But, I'll walk to the ends of the earth for any of you, and any of the guys that I had in my tenure there, I would go to the end of the earth for. But I told them all, like, if you get caught on camera, you get caught saying stuff on the radio, which I did. Like, I can't protect you. There's certain things I can hide, but there is a lot, if you get caught on camera and they're everywhere now, like you're up a creek, you're going to have to ride with it. It's just kind of it's a tough one, but yeah, he's right.
David Stender asked, are you happy at your new location / department?
I am. Happy is an understatement. I definitely miss being downtown. I miss the guys. I absolutely miss going to fires. The trade-off, where I am now is a 4-station department. For the year, we're gonna run about what the last 3 or 4 engines I was assigned to downtown did. I mean, it's slow, but it's. I didn't know how bad I needed it, and my buddy, the fire chief up there, has been a good friend of mine. He came from Atlanta as well. We've been buddies for the better part of my whole career there. He threw me a life ring that I didn't know I needed. And nice. when this all jumped off, he's like, "Hey man," he's like, "Yeah, I remember he called me up. It was like the first day of my suspension. He's like, I got a deal for you." And I'm like, something along those lines. Right. If he hadn't reached out, it would have never been on my radar. I would have rode this thing completely out through civil service, probably would have been terminated, and then had to fight for the next 2 years to get my job back.
Right.
And just to put that in perspective, in that organization, when you have adverse action, whether it's suspension, you can file a grievance, and it goes to a civilian panel with 3 people on it, usually within about 8-9 months. Okay. This hit February of 19. There was another little thing that hit February of 19, COVID. And the whole country shut down. I mean, they were backlogged 2 years almost at that point.
Right.
So I'd still be sitting here right now, not drawing a check. So you put all that and wrap it all up. And I had a long time. I had a few weeks to think about what I was going to do and whether I was going to accept this other position or duke it out. And that was my initial instinct. It's like, fuck them. I'm going to embarrass them again. If they want it, I'm gonna give it to them.
Right.
And my lawyer was, he's like, yeah, well, I'll do whatever you want to do. But after a few weeks of, my wife was home because they shut school down. My little girl's 2 at the time, 2.5. I mean, you spend some time there. It's like, okay, what's it worth? What am I going to gain from this? I knew the minute this hit social media, I'd committed career suicide for at least the next 5 years. The whole executive staff was going to have to retire before I was going to get a decent assignment. I was up a creek, but I was cool with it. I'm about principle. I feel like I did the right thing, and fuck you. What are you going to do? Stick me on an engine that's running more than the 4,500 calls a year I was already doing?
Right.
It is what it is. They just stuck me at the airport running 5 calls a year, and that would have been their punishment. But at the end of the day, I had to weigh it out and do what was best for my family. And I wanted to be selfish and do it for me, but it's not just me anymore. And, I said all that to say this: I'm extremely happy there. I feel better than I had no idea how tired I was until I left.
Nice.
And I'm getting rested there. I'm a better dad. I'm a better husband. I'm a better person in general. And it was a life change, and I can't explain it. It just,
you can hear it. You can hear it in your tone. You can hear it in your voice. It's good. Gus Salcido said, Danny, as you travel, do you ever get other departments' fire chiefs that tell you that you did everything right, or I would go to bat for you type thing?
Oh yeah. And the first 2 that come to mind outside of the state of Georgia, Mo Davis, my man from Houston.
Yeah, no doubt.
And Scott Thompson. I
Nice.
mean, I reference Scott and what he's doing in the colony. I don't remember who it was. I was talking with somebody. It may have been on James Gearing's podcast or something. And I'd never met Scott. I don't even think I knew what he looked like. And I met him a year and a half or so ago at Water on the Fire. And we were in the hotel bar in Pensacola. And he's like, Danny. And I was like, hey, yeah, what's up? He's like, Scott Thompson. I was like, I want to have a beer with this guy. And just, man, my buddies from Texas, I love y'all, man. Those guys are when you think of a big old Texas grin, those guys got it, man. They're just some of the nicest guys around. But no, there are still a lot of captains, battalion, company officers, chief officers, the whole 9 yards, all the way up to Scott, who and my boss right now that will back you when you do the right thing. It's not dead. And that, to that point, there's a lot of people out there, especially 3 to 5 years ago, 10 years ago, oh, the Brotherhood's dead, fire service is dead, not even close.
Right on.
Not
right
even
on.
a fucking fraction is it gone. And you really find out how little this job is when something like this happens, and you got guys reaching out from it's huge, but it gets small real quick. I don't know if that makes sense.
Oh yeah.
But holy crap. It has literally just been eye-opening, refreshing. There's not enough words to describe it.
No, and I think I
think
referenced
it's the biggest one.
I referenced it last scrap, but Brush at Water on the Fire this year, Brush told me something that stuck with me, which is once you get outside the walls of your department, you realize that the fire service has no walls.
That was good. I listened to you said that in Stevie's today, I think.
Okay, yeah.
So cool.
Yeah, that one stuck with me, obviously, because I keep quoting it every time
come up
someone
with really cool quotes like that. I got nothing.
Yeah, Brian's a genius, though. We all want to be Brian.
He's doing some really good stuff, man.
And speaking of, Scott and Mo are both going to be in Arkansas this weekend. I'm going there to teach with them, so I'm going to see them both. I'm super pumped about that, just to bring it full circle.
Man, those guys are just 2 of the most genuine, guys that just still love the
no
job.
doubt about it.
All their time on the job. I mean, gosh, they're too much, man. They're such good dudes.
And just to stay on topic, the people this month, November for the scrap was Dave McGrail, Danny Dwyer, then it's Kevin Lewis, Julio Ramos, and then closes out around Thanksgiving with Mo Davis.
Which Kevin Lewis do you have?
Twisted Truckee out of Texas.
Okay, gotcha. One of my best buddies in Cobb County here locally is Kevin Lewis as well, and he's on the circuit as well. So I didn't know. I know there's a couple of Kevin Lewis's floating around.
I may have to reach
Hit
out.
him up.
Yeah, let me know. I'll add him to the list of people to reach out to.
The big cheesy Lou. He's one of a kind. He's got phenomenal hair. So
okay. Tony Nunez asked, "How many job offers did you get?"
One of my buddies is like, man, he goes, you're going to be able to write your ticket wherever you want to go. I don't think I got any job offers. Chief Thompson out of Texas is like, come on down. I don't know what that was. He's like, Texas living's good. And I'm like, man, if I move my wife, her family around the corner, she won't be my wife for long. But, I think loosely there were a lot of people like, come on, man, come on, but it was, again, such a humbling experience. And, going down, again, following Dave McGrail with the guys that are following me on this month, and in Wichita, stand there with Bob Pressler and Lombardo and all the other guys. I'm like, what the fuck am I doing here? Like, how did this happen?
No doubt.
That's the biggest thing. Every time somebody asks me about this, it's outside of Atlanta that, whether it's a podcast or I'm still just like mind boggled that this one call and Facebook totally changed the course of everything that I know,
No, that's awesome. John Vincent Ryan Buchan says, do you keep in contact with firefighters at Atlanta, and are they still going through what you went through?
Yes, I do still keep in contact. Some of my best buddies I've got in life are there, and I hope are listening, but, are they going through what I went through? I don't know that specifically that I'm aware of. There have not been any incidents that match mine with the same outcome. They're going through some staffing issues like everybody is. They're going through some rig replacement stuff. Thankfully, for them, the two gentlemen that were spearheaded this whole thing, the fire chief and his first deputy the first deputy I think is still there but has been demoted, and the fire chief since retired, and they've got a fantastic fire chief right now. He's got one hell of a mountain to climb. They left him with the department shambles, but I really hope he's the right man for the job. And then one of my mentors and one of the guys I hold in the highest degree is their deputy chief of field ops. And he is one tough as nails fireman, good dude, looks out for the guys. So
nice.
There's been a lot of changes, and I really hope they're for the good. So I want nothing but the best for that organization. I'm not mad at the guys. I was mad at those two people that did this whole thing, but overall, I want nothing but the best for that place. I was so fortunate to be assigned to the companies that I was. I had some outstanding officers. I had some really bad officers. I learned, you learn a lot from both, but I could not have scripted a better career when I left the department I started with and went on to be busy and to kind of do all the things that firemen want to do. I got to do it all. I'm so thankful that I made the move. I wouldn't trade a cup of coffee for not a cup of coffee for what I did down there. It was an amazing run. I wish I could have done my 30, and hit the door, but things change.
No doubt, man. Let's see if I'm missing any questions here before I move topics on you. Cobb Fire has an amazing pool of talent leaders. Yes. All right, I'm looking.
Dustin say that?
No, who said that? Sean Laley.
Okay.
That one counts.
Yeah, that was ding number one.
Let's see. So let's switch gears and talk training development. Mm-hmm. You're big on training and training development. Talk to me about your training philosophy, basically, if you have ever really dug deep into it.
Know that I've dug too deep into it. And again, to quote some of the guys, I know I listened to Stevie this morning, and Dustin was very forthcoming about, we plagiarize everything.
Yes,
None of this. I didn't make up any of this.
100%.
and Todd hit on it, and he and I share a lot of the same values when it comes to this. It's just making it realistic. YouTube is an amazing resource, but can also be a thorn. Target Solutions is absolutely awful. But again, one of the things, I think one of the questions you asked me, we, as a fire service as a whole, there's been a lack of war it's just continually going down. You talk to the guys that came on Atlanta, in the 70s, 80s, 90s, like, oh man, when they were doing this, when the dome was being built, man, we were burning stuff every day. The guys in the 80s, like, oh, when they were building this, we were, everybody had their heyday.
Right.
Going back to the beginning of time. I had my heyday. You had yours. Yours is not going to, the guy that's coming on the job now in your organization is not going to have a quarter of the fires that you did.
Right.
It's just life. How do you get those guys to your level? How do you get them to a comfort level where they can make the best decision with the minimal amount of information, from being asleep 10 minutes earlier? Like, how do you get them to that point to where they're doing that if they're not going to fires consistently? And, my last assignment downtown wasn't where I left out of, but when I was at 16s where all this went down, I was there for, I guess, 2.5, 3 years. They still have the most first due fire in the city, bar none. They have for, I don't know how, since as long as I can remember, 25, 30 years. I was very lucky to be there. I wish every officer, every extra driver, every firefighter could rotate through there I wish it was all magical. You asked what I could do. I wish I could make everybody go to fires, because you gain so much knowledge from doing it over and over and over again. You can only do so much on a drill yard, but it's still better than nothing. Like Stevie said, he's like, I don't stretch every day, but if we haven't had a fire in a few weeks, we're going to stretch. We're going to put hose on the ground. So you can't replicate the true incidents, but you can do everything but, right? You can get out, pull hose. Pulling hose in a parking lot behind the firehouse is better than nothing. But if you can get permission to pull hose at an apartment complex that's under construction, and doing, dropping couplings, hooking up the inch and three-quarter and dragging them up, rope, whatever you want to do, get out and do them in buildings that are occupied or unoccupied, set for demo, is even better. So the big thing to me is just getting it as realistic as possible. I love, and prior to this whole thing jumping off, like the most you'd ever find me talking to is maybe, 6 guys that were in my live fire group that I was doing. That was the extent of my teaching, really. And, but as I was going around and doing this and people were asking more questions, my big thing, I loved, Todd and I and another good buddy of mine taught a lot of our AOIC class downtown, the acting officer in charge. I love getting guys that are firefighters that have been on for a few years, or drivers ready to make that next step.
Nice.
Even in the company level, like I loved where I was. Both my captains were off a lot. They rode the car a lot at 16s. When I was at a new lieutenant at 2, they were off a lot. So I got the opportunity to ride up, but that gave my guys the opportunity to step up and be the boss on the engine for the day. And that's huge, because not only are they going up, but the fireman's riding up and driving. I mean, it's a trickle down thing. So that to me is where my passion lies. I don't know if I was a good company officer or not, but I was taught by some good guys, and I can regurgitate pretty well. So I love trying to share that information and getting them better. Giving good, solid fireground reports, size ups, radio traffic from the seat is huge to me. It's the cornerstone. I said that again, I think it sets a tone for everything. Yes. And I think Stevie or somebody was talking about, guys that start getting a little sketchy on the radio, it ripples as well.
Right.
Then you got battalions like, oh shit, can these guys handle it? What do they really have? He's coming in and already come out with a plan B, which is going to be defensive, and nobody wants to do that. So keep your shit together. I don't care if the world is burning down around you. Take a deep breath, key up the radio, and give them something tight just for a second to get people chilled out to where you can still do your job. Make a decision, right, wrong, or indifferent, knock it down, do what you got to do, bust it in the mouth, and go for it.
Nice.
That to me, but you've got to have the experience. And that's some of that stuff. And that was a hard thing for me too, as a new officer, was like trying to figure out what drives people. This is more of a psychological battle than it is anything else. And trying to get people that don't see things like you do, that aren't quite into the job, to get them to still enjoy it enough to where they can sort of be good at it for the time being and make good decisions. You can still make solid decisions and this not be your life, so trying to get that honed into a person is what I really, really enjoyed.
Nice. No. And like I had a, well, let me ask you Justin McGill's question. He said, is the AOIC, acting officer in charge, something you're still interested in doing? Might have to add that to the list we discussed. Cheers, brother.
Absolutely.
Okay.
My man. Justin's a great guy. I'm sad. I'll have a little horse him out for his mullet that he was sporting in Wichita, because that thing was something else. But yeah, and I absolutely still love it. It will always be a passion of mine. I am a toilet cranking backstep tailboard fireman now, but I still have that that's just part of who I am and who I, kind of decided I wanted to be. And, but yeah, absolutely.
Now, a question I have is when you see someone, you know what I'm talking about. When you see someone, you're like, that guy has it. He has the leadership qualities that you look for, the natural, whatever it is, but you see it, but they don't quite realize it. Is there something you've been able to figure out or do to push someone to nudge them in the right direction?
I think the problem I ran into a lot downtown still was keeping their head in the game. There were a lot of guys, because of decisions that were made there, that were thinking about going to other departments, that were talking about whether they were going to promote or not. And you've been doing this a while as well. Like, when you see somebody that has a passion for it, to see that passion get snuffed because of politics.
Policy.
It's like, how do you keep these guys happy when it's just a raining shitstorm outside of your four walls of your firehouse? How do you, Chief told me years ago, he's like, I can't control what comes down from the top, but I can control what's inside these four walls.
Right on. There's
a lot of truth to that, but eventually stuff's going to start leaking in the door.
Yeah.
Like, how do you still keep those guys motivated when essentially their world as they know it is crumbling around them? There was so much talk over the last 10 years with a couple fire chiefs ago about whether, he was questioning the amount, like how aggressive we were and whether we were going to be searching vacant. They literally sent a directive out at one point that we were no longer going to search vacant buildings. They have no power. They have no gas. How do they start on fire?
Right,
Somebody
right,
who's in there, right? And to reference the Solomon report, we had a line of duty death in Thanksgiving of 2006. NIOSH came out and said Atlanta has an inordinate, I think is the word they use, an inordinate amount of vacant occupied dwellings.
Yeah, there you go.
They came from outside the department. They know, so there was a lot of stuff back and forth and, trying to keep the guys motivated, task driven, but then you can't bitch down either. Right. Because I get frustrated. So I have to go to my office and call my buddy like, and then walk out with a smile like everything's okay. So it was a task, man. Hope I answered that question correctly. I feel like I got off track.
That was hey, that's the beautiful thing about the scrap. You can just chase squirrels and go down rabbit holes.
Careful, dude, because I will absolutely do it.
All right. No, that's hey, 100%. Let me see what I've got. Justin said you had to go there, didn't you? Rip to the locks. Target Solutions is awful. Was like John Vincent. I'm looking here. There are no vacant buildings. I like it. It's from Robbie Townsend. Robbie says the officer of the house sets the tone when it comes to training. We have to make sure our guys are ready to take our spot. Beautifully said.
And Robbie is, we just met recently, but I'm friends with him on Facebook, and that dude, what he's doing with his guys on a daily basis is something to set your goals for.
Nice.
They're constantly doing company drills, working out together. I mean, it's impressive. My hat's off to you, because it takes a lot, man. It's, when you have a good crew that it's a well-oiled machine. I had lightning in a jar for a very short amount of time as an officer on Engine 1 downtown. And it was, I think other than the captain and the front end driver, I think I might've been the oldest guy there at like 38, 39 at the time. I had a cast of knuckleheads that were no older than 25, full of piss and vinegar and bangs and Red Bulls and everything else. And that place ran itself. Mm-hmm. I got on the rig. I was hustling out the door, and those fuckers were dressed and in the back, ready to go. And like, what are you doing? Let's go. But they handled everything. I didn't have to do a thing. There was they didn't call in sick. They didn't, it ran itself. And when it's it's easy to almost get complacent in that point because
Sure.
you know the guys are tight. I don't need to go out and practice stretching with them. They got it. So then we start working on the AYC stuff. We start working on the extra driver stuff. I really liked getting guys that were new, getting them passed up to drive the engine, then ready to go to the seat. And then, by the time that came around, they were testing for driver or lieutenant. And it's like, I love you, but you got to go. It's time to get your ass out of here and ready into the next spot. Let me get the new guy in to take your spot.
Right
get
on.
him ready and just, rinse and repeat.
Very nice. Chief Scott Thompson chimed in. He said, I would work for you, brother. So there you go.
You talk about, again.
There's a compliment.
I mean, shit. What do you say to that? Thank you very much, Chief. I got
nothing. John Vincent Ryan Buchan said, is that two names or is that one name? I have to find out. But are you already booked for events in 2022? If so, where? I
think I got Clay McGee. I think we're going to Birmingham towards the end of 22. But right now, 22 is kind of wide open on purpose. I'm like, Corley, you and I were talking a little while ago about, sacrifice and what it means to be on the road and doing this kind of stuff. And as much as I love going across the Southeast, I went to Wichita. Like, it's all been so much fun, and to get to talk shop with guys. Wichita, if you haven't made it to the end of the job and you're not there next year, you are missing out. That, bar none, was the best conference I've been to. Anytime you go to a conference, you get people that are already a little bit more than the average, right? They're going out of town, they're doing whatever, paying their own way sometimes. But Kansas was on a different level. That was those crazy type A fuckers that you want all of them working for you. Like, that was on a different level. I will never miss that again. Isaac's not going to he's never going to have the same guy twice, which is good. But I was like, dude, I'll sit in the back and sell t-shirts. I don't care. I just want to hear who you bring in, you know? So 22 is open right now. I was kind of put on restriction by a 4-year-old after Wichita that I'm not allowed to go anywhere for a while. So, so family comes first always. So I don't know what 22 is going to hold yet, but I know Clay's conference was far enough out. I want to say it's August or September next year. So it was far enough out. I could throw that one on the books quietly and not get yelled at yet. So
right. No, and it's tough. It's tough, man. The family and the still being on duty and then trying to travel and make the appearances and all of it, man. It is it can be taxing. Anybody who does it knows. Yeah, it's an awesome problem to have to juggle, but yeah,
it is. And like I said, man, it's just straight up humbling, and meeting people that are that into the job that they come and listen to. I put my pants on one leg at a time, dude, like anybody else. They want to come and listen to what I have to say. It's mind blowing still.
Magic wand, no budget. What is the perfect training setup for you?
God, I wish you'd have given me some time to think about this. I mean, to have the facilities, and that was something that I think a lot of places are lacking.
Mm-hmm.
To have a state-of-the-art training facility with a legit Class A, no LP bullshit burn building, multiple floors, a training tower, state-of-the-art classrooms with all the technology has come so far. We don't, I think probably when you and I started there, we were still drawing on a chalkboard like that. That was normal. Then we went to wet boards, which was crazy, but to have the top of the line technology, to have a cadre of instructors down there that should be there. Training in Atlanta for a number of years, they've got a hell of a training staff down there right now. But for a number of years, that was a punishment. Right. Believe it or not, if you scored in the top 5 on the lieutenant's or captain's exam, you were going to a 40-hour spot, which was going to be training or inspection. So nobody wanted that. So then you get guys that were sharp, smart guys, studied, know the job, and they end up at training and they're pissed. And a lot of them, like the guys that put me through, were still some of my best buddies and mentors.
Sure.
They made the best of it, but being a part of a cadre or an instructor at a training academy in any organization should be an honor. Yeah. It doesn't just go to anybody. You should want to get there, and you should be honored if the fire chief comes to you and says, "Hey, I want you," or the division, training division chief. And I don't know, I have very limited knowledge of other training organizations. It seems to be that way in New York, but we all want to be where they're at. But
sure.
to have top-notch instructors that want to be there, to have resources, to have a dedicated engine or two, dedicated ladder truck or two, stuff that, you're not having to pull companies for out of service to go down there that they're pissed off because they're not. It's just that's my experience in that one organization. Sure. So I can't say, but again, I think the big thing to me was just to be able to have facilities, logistics, holy shit, like just get stuff done. The fact that it takes a guy around here, and I'm not going to throw it out there, but a year and a half, my buddy, one of my very good friends now, but he's a rookie. I had him as a semi-rookie. He had 2 birthdays in the fire academy. 2.
Wow.
The dude was there for like 14 months. That's bullshit. Okay. It does not take 14 months to send you through firefighter 1, firefighter 2, and EMT A or whatever it is now. Right. But logistically, this instructor's not here today, or you're in the middle of a 28-day pay cycle. Like, that's bullshit. Throw that out. I don't care what HR payroll tells you. Get them done, get them down there, get them out the door. But we ran into a snag. Every time you turn around, there was a snag with a recruit school. And that's not realistic. Can you run them through in 8-9 months? I don't see why not.
Right.
I've never been in training though. So I don't know. I'm speaking kind of out of turn. I think you can. I don't see how. I think logistics kill organizations. I think they kill divisions. They kill training. They kill all sorts of stuff. But you got to have stuff in place and timelines of people that can meet those timelines to get stuff done. And if you don't have that, it will kill anything. It'll kill a class, and it'll kill a training division. It'll kill an organization if you don't have logistics lined up.
Absolutely. All hell reps. Everett Mansfield said, we should honor and elevate the training officer position. It should be so highly sought after that they have to have a process to get that spot. So
I could not agree more.
What I was going to say is, if an organization, let's say they incentivized it with a lot of money, saying this is the most honored position ever, and threw a ton of money at the position, and then you get people who are going after it for the money, and so it's such a catch-22 of how do you, and I think Everett's kicking on it there with a culture change towards it, the mindset of the honor being
And so I think throwing money at it's the wrong answer. You got to level out. If they're going to a 40, you got to level them out. Obviously, from a 24-48, that's just a natural. They're getting promoted. You know what? No, I shouldn't say that, because we did not run anything less than a lieutenant in the training division. Might have been a couple FAOs down there doing some driver stuff at one point. But if you've got a senior fireman, that guy's got stuff to bring to the table. So don't discount him. But if you put the right training chief or training lieutenant, whatever your organization has, with the right mindset in there, his bosses give him the leeway to do things and get stuff done, then that will attract the right guys to be there, if that makes sense. It's got to be a top-down approach.
Yes.
And you put the right guys there, they'll do it. I think it'll get done. But throwing money at it's a wrong deal. There was always talk of giving special operations pay in Atlanta if you had any of your tech rescue stuff, hazmat. And as nice as that would have been, then you get a ton of people that want nothing to do with that. They're going to go through those courses, get the certification, and say, well, hey, I want my 3% because I'm a rope tech. Well, just because you're certified does not mean you're qualified to be in that position. And I think throwing money at people for stuff like that, it sends the wrong message to the wrong people.
All right, I got a couple questions coming at you. First one's from Steve Kaiser. What do you think is the most important, relevant topic in training for the modern service training department?
How do you address the lack of war? That to me is the most. I'll say this. I'll couple it with this. Not having the fires, and then trying to capture the hearts and minds, if you want to say that, of the new guys coming in. And I will not bag on millennials. They're a different breed, but we were a different breed to the people before us. So I will not. You still have guys coming on the job post 9/11 that know the risks that you and I had no clue. Like, having somebody fly a plane into a building and it coming down and killing 343 guys was never part of my recruit school. It was never, this was ever going to happen. And the fact that people still do that, still come to us, go to New York and do that says something about that generation of people. That same generation has been fighting the United States' longest war in history, and they're still signing up every day. So I will not bag on those guys. It just takes a little bit to get to them. So trying to motivate the newer group of people coming through, and then trying to get them to our level without having the frequency of fire duty that all of us have had, whether it's, whether you're in the smallest, combination department with one station, you're still going to more fires now than they will be in 5 years, unless you're just in some weird, you're about to be a ghetto in a small city kind of thing.
Right.
But everybody's slowing down. And so you've got to figure out how to get people to that level. And I'll say this, when I first made officer, I beat my head against a wall for the better part of 9 or 10 months, trying to get a couple guys. So I went in there idealistic, and I didn't come in kicking trash cans and you're going to do this and you're going to do that. And I'm in charge, but here's how I expect you to do things. And Steve said that. He was like, how do you give an expectation sheet, but you don't show them? Like, I was out there with those guys on truck day, raising the cab, pressure washing the engine off, cleaning the frame rails, cleaning the back, like making sure everything's tight. I think I kept a good engine as a driver, a good truck. So I went out there and showed them. And then 3 weeks later, we're back on duty on truck day again. They go out there and they wash it. They go and sit down and watch football. And I'm like, fuck. And that went on for months and months and months. And my captain was like, you tired yet? I was like, no, God damn it. I'm like, I'm gonna get to them. They will see, you're going to see the way, And the one thing, the big takeaway from that is I have my bar that is Danny's bar. It's in my head. That's where I go. That's not Corley's bar. That's not Frank's bar. That's mine. I set that for me. You got to figure out what that other kid's bar is going to be, where you want, and they're only going to come to a certain level. They're not going to get to your bar because that's yours. It's in your DNA. It's in how you were taught by different people. Like, you can get them to a point, but they're not going to absorb all of it. There's just, you got to figure out and get them to their highest level potential. And whether that's 120% and outdoing you, or whether that's 40% of what you gave. But if it's that guy's 100%, that's where he's going to be. And that's where he's going to live. And you just got to know that. And then it makes it less stressful, because if I know that a guy, his capability is only 40% of the normal guys, I'm not really pissed off about it, because the guy's giving me his 100. Right. You just got to realize that, and that's a psychological battle that I had a hard time.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, no, without a doubt. And that takes a lot of investment in getting to know your guys. I mean, plain and simple.
100%. You got to find out what makes them tick.
Yeah. Scott Thompson throwing a question at you. Danny, what advice would you give a young officer faced with a go, no-go situation, for lack of a better term?
Got to look at yourself in the mirror in the morning. Straight up. If you have time to think about whether this does sound so terrible, but if you have time to think about whether it's a go, no go, it's coming past. That time is gone. So you've got to get these guys, and he's in a position where he can do it. And he's got some absolutely fantastic guys working in the colony. My hat's off to all of them. Those guys get it. You got to get them to the point where you can, trust them. Scott's got sons on the job. At some point you got to send them out of the nest and let them go do their thing, and just hope that you got them to their level. Mm-hmm. But, got to train them up the best you can and just hope that they make the best decision. And they're not always going to win. I mean, I don't consider, everybody said grab. That's not a grab. That lady died in the front yard. That's a fatality that was pulled out of a house. A grab to me that I was always taught was they walk out of the hospital. Okay. I was lucky enough to have one of those that I'm aware of in my career. The rest were fatalities. So you just gotta give them all the tools you can, give them the leeway to make those decisions, especially in his position is leading an organization. If you're involved with policy making, give your guys a leeway to make those decisions. Mm-hmm. Don't get pissed off at them when they make a decision that you don't necessarily agree with, because you weren't there at 2:00 in the morning, on your 6th run after you went to bed, and, things change, and just realize that, like, again, your human nature is going to take over at some point, and you just got to hope that they find that balance in their flow-based decision-making, that they go the right direction in that road, I guess. I don't know if that makes sense, but.
No, absolutely, man. I love the answer. I'm trying to read through here. I'm reading through questions. Battle tested leader, yes, okay. Any suggestions? This is from Justin McGill. Any suggestions on ways to prove to your men you know their worth within a department that doesn't have a history of doing so from the top down? Kind of touched on it, but yeah.
Yeah, you got to, we ran through that.
Yeah.
You got to, I don't think that there was anybody that I held in a very high regard because I didn't hold, I'll be the first one to tell you, I didn't have all-stars at every crew that I went to, but the ones that were, I made sure that they knew it. I spent more time with them, getting them ready. I spent time with the other guys. I didn't put them on a pedestal per se, but I knew what they needed. I knew that I could provide more to them than I could provide to the guy standing next to them just because of their attitude and how they took things. So, doing stuff, and it's stupid, but, I don't know the last time that an officer, it's been years, an officer gave us Christmas gifts at Christmas. I made sure I did it every year.
No, absolutely.
I felt weird about doing it as a driver. That's not my position, but right. I always felt like that's a good way to say thank you. These guys, most of them, I was lucky enough to have them. They made me shine like a new penny 365 days a year.
Yeah.
Sometimes 363 and a half if you count up some of the counseling sessions. But point being, buy them a steak dinner every now and again. You're an officer. I don't give a shit how much money you're not making. You're making more than they are. Go out and spend $100 on dinner and maybe not take your wife out that weekend. Firemen are the biggest cheap asses, but blow money. They'll piss and moan about not having money, but coming in a brand new F-250, but then bitch about paying $8 for dinner instead of $5. You know what I mean? Like, bring it back to reality. Let's keep it all level here. But, I always made sure, I hope I did, that they knew, I think some of the biggest things to me, it wasn't like a big jovial hug or anything like that. Just, I had a couple, one officer in particular that came up, and he was very, very even keel, and he just came up and kind of grabbed my shoulder elbow and just said, "Hey, good job." And that's all I needed.
Yeah,
that is all I needed. It's just getting. One of my buddies said a few years ago, he's like, just getting the nod. You get the nod from the senior man, the captain. That's it.
Hard to knock.
Yeah.
Tate Hams asks, Danny, we have young, hungry firemen eager to learn, but officers and chief officers that have checked out and training isn't a priority. How do you get an officer engaged without counting down the days until they retire as an option? There's no softballs today, man.
I don't know that I can answer that one. That's kind of like, I almost said something that's going to stick my foot in my mouth. That's tough, man. If you can't, you can. A good friend of mine said you can't shame the shameless. I'll steal another quote. I'll plagiarize like a,
nothing we do is original here. You're all good.
No, not at all. But there's a lot of truth to that. And there are some officers that will, if you go out and they hear ladders banging outside, like they might be watching football or doing, a lot of paperwork involved in it or whatever, but I would think most of them would come outside and at least just, if you're the senior guy, it's like, hey, Lou, whatever, tell me this about these ladders or don't put them on the spot. Don't say, hey, how many gallons a minute are you getting out of this 7/8 tip on, 225. Don't ask them that. But, hey, how about, can you back him up? That kind of stuff. It's going to be tough. And I don't know that there's a right answer. Some guys, you're not going to get them out there, no matter how hard you try. But as a senior guy, as an eager guy, I know you want to go out to that engine and pull hose. I've been there. I've been like, man, I want to go pull hose, but I don't want to, I don't want to get the guys pissed at me because they're inside watching a Braves game. You got to pick the right time. 30 minutes before dinner's not it. Saturdays, Todd and I share the same philosophy. Your ass is mine from like 8 o'clock to 1. After that, do whatever you want. So pick a right time, try and get them engaged, and just know that you're not going to get that officer that's about to hit the door. Bulk of them aren't going to come outside and do anything. And it is what it is. You give those guys that are younger the best you absolutely can, and then don't be that guy in 5 to 7, whatever, how many years. Be better than that. Learn, and learn from what that guy does or doesn't do,
No, absolutely.
That's a tough one. That's a fastball
coming right at you, man.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a toughie. And he said it, man. You can't shame the shameless. Sometimes the only option is waiting until they retire. Hopefully, another thing, Mark Von Oppen says it all the time, since we're just going to, is You don't need permission to be awesome.
Not at all.
No one has to give you permission to be excellent.
No, it's yours. I mean, it's yours to go get and do. And I don't. That's a tough one.
Even the shameless. I've never met a officer. Yeah, now I'm sure there's one out there, and I'm sure someone can correct me, but I've never met one who said, "No, you can't train out here on your own." You know what I'm saying? I've never seen someone shut it down. So if you have to do, go ahead. Sorry.
No, go ahead. Finish.
No, that was it. I've never seen one actually come out and shame it down.
And I'll be 100% honest with you. I had a couple guys at 16s, one fireman and my engine driver, that took things to a level that I cannot describe when it comes to ladders. And I'm all about ladders. I'm all about cleaning the rigs. Like I said, I love to keep a good engine, good truck. You know, ladder day, we pulled all the ladders off. We washed them down, made sure all the halyards were good, go through the motions, check the hooks, little WD-40 here. These scratchers were outside with paraffin wax, waxing the beams. And I'm like, I remember standing in the kitchen window and I was talking with a guy. I'm like, what the fuck are they doing? And they're like, man, that's just what they do on ladder day. I mean, but I'm not going to knock them. Right. I went outside and made a little fun at them and then asked them where they learned it. And one of the guys is one of the most inquisitive dudes I've ever worked with. And he's like, well, you know, the manufacturer said, he was quoting stuff out of duos. You know, I mean, it's like, man, that's awesome. Go for it. You know,
right.
What do you say? You can't shut them down. You shut that down, and then they're gonna turn everything off, and you've lost them.
Yes. All right. See if I'm missing any questions. There's been a lot. I know I've missed some questions. I'm still scrolling through, going back to my notes here.
I'm glad that I'm glad you're getting them.
No, absolutely. They're throwing good ones. Some of them are. Sometimes you get a soft toss, you know, but these ones of tonight have not been. It's been a lot of hard balls coming at you.
I hope I'm not. Yeah, I hope I'm getting them out there. I'm hoping to get the right answers out.
Has your career? I think it's been insightful. So it gives
good. Thank you.
Has your career been shaped more by good leadership or bad leadership, in your opinion?
Probably an equal amount of both. Maybe that's not right. Good leadership is always going to outweigh bad leadership. I think that the bad leaders were so prominent in some of the things that they did that stands out more. So the answer is yes.
Yes. That's like a perfect answer.
Tactically, how to lead. Like, you learn all those things from the good leaders, but you also learn what not to do. But again, I had captains that were not super aggressive, and that's fine. Like, if I'm your lieutenant, I'm here to make your job easy. But the only thing I ask in return is don't keep me from doing mine. Like, if you don't want to go in, hey man, whatever. Stay outside, talk on the radio so I don't have to, and let me go to work.
Right,
don't
do work.
Keep me from doing my job. And that's all I can ask. And the one that's sticking out, that happened. We had no issues. I know what he's going to do. I know what he's not going to do, and that's fine. I don't operate like that. The only issue I had was a couple different times this person, actually, I think there were a couple of them, were like, well, hey, man, if you're on the truck, I expect you to stay outside and take command. And I'm like, absolutely not. We run a 3-man truck. Primary is no. That's just not – write me up, do whatever. I need to be in the building. We have 3 guys to search. Whether I don't care if it's a 1,000-square-foot frame or if it's a 100 by 50 multifamily.
Right.
It's got to get done, and we don't have anybody. You give me 2 other guys in the back? Sure. If that's what you want me to do, I'll do it. Probably not, but I'll still, whatever. I'll work around it. But you got to be inside. You got to be inside as a truck officer and searching and stuff like that. So, you learn an equal amount from both.
Okay. I like it. I like the answer, yes.
Yeah, that's I like answering a lot. If I don't know, I'm just gonna be like, yeah, that's yes.
Dustin Martinez says, Danny, as an officer, did you ever struggle with? Are your guys doing it because they believe in it, believe in what you are putting down, or because you are their boss and they don't want to get in trouble?
More that they believe in it. Again, I was lucky. I told you I had lightning in a jar for a while when I was downtown at once. And I was a firm believer and still talk about you don't realize your potential until you get out of your comfort zone. Well, I had said that for years, but it never really been out of my comfort zone. I didn't realize it. And then I got shotgun blasted, to a different company a couple blocks away that had biggest diverse group of just people in all walks of life that I have ever seen under one roof. It was the strangest. I'm like, how the hell did all these people get here together? And this, like, it's just, It was weird. But I had people there that believed in it for the right reasons. Those are the guys with the paraffin wax out there on the beams of the ladders. And I had people in that same building at the same time that didn't really give a rat's ass about being there and just did because they knew that's what they had to do. And they would still, I had guys, and I'm sure Dustin runs into, everybody has, you have people that work twice as hard to get out of shit. If they would just put a fraction of that energy and do the right thing,
yes,
you're golden. So you get them both. And again, that's still a struggle. It's like, how do you get people to see things the way that you see things? And you're not going to get them all. You know, the thing that killed me years ago when I was first starting was sitting in the shit at the fire station reading Fire Engineering, Firehouse magazine. I'm like, hey, Lou, like, what are these dudes in LA doing on the roof of this burning house? I was brand new. We did zero vertical vent in that department at the time. He's like, oh, big city stuff. Like, I'm like, all right. And I didn't know any better.
Right. No, none of us did. 30-degree power cone. Let's do this.
Yeah, we didn't have a ladder truck at the time. So once you start getting a little bit older, a little bit more mature, and seeing that there's things outside of those walls, it's like, holy shit, there's a whole other world out here. So that killed me. But you get guys and guys and gals they're just going to be in all different walks of life. And you got, again, I think figuring out, David Rose, good friend and mentor, told me a few years ago, he was assigned to a really slow company for a while. I was like, dude, how do you get these people to like do things? Cause he's aggressive. He wants to work.
Right.
And he's like, man, I just find out what they're into. And then he starts talking to them about whatever it is they're into. I think one of the people in his crew was into horses at the time. And so he'd find out, do a little research on horses, and then come in the next day. And next thing you know, this person's got buy-in with you.
Oh yeah.
Because you're talking to them about what makes them click.
Oh, you're investing. Yeah, you're investing. Yeah.
It might be football. Exactly. Might be football. Could be cars, women, whatever. Find out what they're into. Get a little FaceTime with them. Show them that you care, and then I think you will get a little bit more buy-in from them. I am. This is not my stuff. I still struggle with that.
Oh yeah.
We're in a little bit different position now to where it's not as critical, but you still got to figure that out. You know.
No, and nothing can replace that time in relationship building. So that, I mean, nothing.
And that's what was extremely difficult with Atlanta. You had guys that lived in Alabama. My driver downtown drove an hour and a half to work from just the other side of the state line every day. You had guys that I live an hour north of the city. You had guys that lived 2 hours north. So getting together for barbecues, for football, for pool parties on the weekends at all was a huge task.
Yeah.
You know, and then we started kind of getting guys. There's a local brewery that we go to on Fridays that we started doing B shift Fridays. And all the guys we would get together before all of us were on C shift, we get together that Friday and try and and there was guys but some guys drove an hour and a half. A lot of the guys, we were 10 minutes away, you know, but it was just a tough one. And I don't know how Cobb, I grew up in Cobb County when I moved here, and I'm familiar with the organization, but I don't know how their cohesiveness is with their guys, their members now. But, you know, where I am now is like the fire department that I started in. The guys hunt together. The kids, they go ice skating together. They do daddy-daughter date nights. They go to my captain's son's playing varsity football now. We all have a game plan to go see him play. Like, that's what I love. And that's what I missed being downtown, that it's just hard to capture, man. You have people that are some of the best firemen I've ever seen. And then you have some of the worst employees that you could ever imagine. And they're on opposite ends of the spectrum. You can't get these scratchers to eat with you, much less come to your house on the weekend to hang out. Right. You know, it's just, right. And you just got to know that that's just the way things are. Right. But the good ones will always gravitate towards each other, and you can get them to your house, especially if you offer up beer and football or NASCAR or whatever the case is.
Hell yeah.
You'll get them there. So, but again, then it's tough, man. It's a wild world we live in, I guess.
All right. I love it, man. A lot of questions answered. I love the stuff on getting together and making it intentional, man. That is, yeah, 100%. I like to ask if there are book or books that you think firefighters should be reading. There
is a host of them, and I think a lot of people that know me probably laugh found out I do read a lot. I don't think I come across that way. I actually picked up, so Dustin's texting me the same time he's asking you questions. But I actually picked up Outlaw Platoon on Dustin's recommendation recently.
Okay.
I'm halfway through that. It's great. The reading list that Leadership Under Fire puts out is phenomenal. I would say 3 or 4 books into that. Boyd, about Colonel John Boyd, who developed the OODA loop. That book is one that my tiny little brain is going to have to read 3 or 4 more times before I fully understand it, because it gets into some pretty deep stuff. I've got pilot buddies that read it, and they're just like, holy crap, like, it's impressive. Call Sign Chaos is one of my favorite ones. I've unfortunately never served in the military, but those are the kind of the books that I gravitate towards. I'm not a big fiction guy. What else is there? There were a couple more that I had. Boyd, Outlaw Platoon, Call Sign Chaos. I just started reading Grit. Angela Duckworth was a recommendation. That's a really good book. There's a handful of stuff out there. Again, pick up something that interests you, and it's not – Call Sign Chaos has nothing to do with the fire department.
Right.
0. Neither does Boyd. But it's about developing leaders and about how to be a good leader and how to take care of your people.
But it's highly applicable. Yes, 100%.
100%. But you've got to – and Boyd was I think it was Boyd that was a really tough one. I'll be honest with you, Extreme Ownership, I love the book. I had a hard time correlating that to the fire department. And I love what Jocko does. It's a little bit intense for me a lot, but it was a tough one the first time I read it to really like spin this to company level stuff where I was at. But General Mattis was.
I love Call Sign Chaos is one of my favorite books I've read recently.
Man, that's a good one. I mean, I wish I had time to read them more. Again, I need to do the books on tape thing because I've got an hour ride to work. And,
I avoided it for so long because I was like, no, I'm a reader. I don't listen,
Right.
Now I'm addicted to Audible, so.
Well, then if I lose that, then I can't even keep up with the podcast.
Yeah, no doubt.
Man, it's so tough, and a couple of them are 2-3 hours a piece. It takes me like a week and a half to get through them.
Right.
There are a lot of good books. Again, Leadership Under Fire has a really good reading list. Combustible, the podcast, is a podcast by 3 local guys. I'm not going to throw out their organizations out there because I don't think that they mention it much. But they're all 3 are chief officers with 2 very large metro departments here in the local area, and they do a really good podcast. They've got a great reading list.
Combustible is called? Combustible podcast?
Combustible, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And they're on the iTunes platform. The Marine Corps Warfighting, outstanding. I mean, that thing is just. I lent it out to somebody. I was looking for it the other day to read it again because it's a quick read, and it's printed with really big letters like second graders, which is kind of how my brain functions. So I wanted to read that again, and I gave it to somebody, and I don't know where it went, but I'm gonna have to order it again. So there's a lot of good stuff out there, and just pick it up. Not all of it's going to make sense. Not all of it's going to apply to you or your organization or how you see things. But if you can get 1 or 2 little nuggets from it, I mean, you're constantly picking up stuff.
Absolutely. There it is. Reading list. I'm really excited about the Leadership Under Fire reading list because I hadn't heard that. So,
dude,
yeah.
If you don't listen to any, I was fortunate to meet Jason Bresler. I'm not sure if you're familiar with him.
Mm-mm.
Okay, so, and I hope I'm not screwing this up if he or any of his people are listening, but what was Jerry's last name? Jerry Smith, Baltimore Rescue One that spoke in Wichita.
Oh, yes.
Okay, so he's part of Leadership Under Fire in their group.
Okay.
Jason Bresler I believe he's retired now, is a major in the Marine Corps, multiple combat tours, Naval Academy grad, just super, super highly intelligent guy. And I saw him present at FDIC in 2014, I believe. And it was making yourself hard to kill on the fire ground.
Okay.
And me and a couple buddies sat in there for 90 minutes and looked like we were catching flies. Our mouths just wide open, like, holy shit. And I'm telling you, if you can listen to this guy and do some more research, especially on that class, and I don't know what all he's presenting now or if he's presenting, but this dude has a possibility to change a fire service and flip it completely on its ass. And we had a conversation at the Clada one night. I bought him a beer, just, hey, man, thank you. This is great. He's like, I think he said, give me 10 years or something like that. He is a fireman on Rescue 2 I believe he just made lieutenant. I don't know if he transferred out of the company or not, but drove Salka for a while. I mean, the guy's
He's got a pedigree. Yeah.
Yeah. And his military background is nothing short of stellar, in my opinion. And the people that he has as part of the leadership under Fire Cadre are from all walks of life. He's got, Jerry Smith from Baltimore. He's got, gosh, I'm drawing a blank on his name right now, but he co-hosts a podcast a lot. He's the senior man at 26 Truck in Harlem. But he's got guys he brings people on that are like sports psychologists. He had these two brothers that were Division I lacrosse players. And, just it's just motivational stuff and leadership stuff from everything across the board. It's not all fire department. It's not all New York City. It's a mix of everything. It's a mix of sports, really, and fire department, military. And he just, they put a podcast out probably every 3 weeks or so, and I cannot wait for those things to drop because they are really great to listen to.
Chad Small just posted a link to it, so for everybody listening, there's a link in the chat for people. If you're on the Facebook, you can click on it.
I just realized. Oh God, it was on the tip of my tongue. One of the ones that's on their reading list. That'll come to me in a second. Go ahead.
Okay. No, I was getting ready to hit you with 5 questions. So
go ahead. Yeah.
Are you ready?
Sure.
Little thing we do on the on the scrap. 5 questions for firefighters. The answers are completely your opinion. The points are arbitrary. They're assigned by me. So, Danny Dwyer, are you ready for the 5 questions for firefighters?
Hit me, brother.
Number 1. We kind of hit this. I accidentally let one leak through that was the number 1 question, really. But, so I kind of know your answer. Number 1. What is the number 1 issue facing the modern fire service?
Man, like I said, lack of war. To quote Bresler, as a matter of fact.
Okay.
He when I heard him say that in Indy a few years ago, he was referring to the Vietnam vets that were still on the job when he came on, if I remember right. No, I take that back. I got that screwed up. Excuse me. They were referencing the war years in the fire department, and he correlated that with post-Vietnam military that had a bunch of inexperienced officers all through the 80s until that next conflict. And so it was kind of like, he made it all kind of intermingle. But yeah, trying to get guys to the experience level they need to be to make the best decisions on the fly, get them into that flow-based thinking. We grind stuff into your head in recruit school or probie school, whatever you want to call it, to where you're just acting. You're not thinking. You're just like, I know I need to do this. And then this happens and I need to do that. That has to continue. That repetitive training has got to continue to where you just keep grinding that into people's head all the way through their career to where they are no longer, this is going to sound bad, but to where they're no longer thinking, they're just acting, but they're acting based off of their training that you provide them that hopefully will fall in line with, the mission of that incident. So getting them to that level is without going to fires, a couple times a week is just, I don't know how to answer it, but that I think is the biggest push we're looking at.
No, I love it. Especially lack of the training requirements and the lack of ability to have realistic training combined with the lack of OJT,
And I don't think I don't know an organization in this country that's not facing that. New York City's got their pockets, don't get me wrong, but you're out at a slow company somewhere. I mean, everybody's got to be going through it. So I think it's a national, if not an international challenge with this job.
No doubt about it. Recognition, prime decision making. The model that we all talk about. How do you get it when you can't when there's nothing to recognize?
Deep Survival.
Read that book. Yeah. Okay.
Another good one.
No, great book. Gonzalez, I believe. I could be wrong. Yeah. Number 2. What is the thing you are most excited about for the future of firefighting?
The newest kid coming in the door that doesn't know shit. That makes me happy. Somebody that is just coming on this job, has no idea what he's got in store for him, has no idea how many male parts he's going to see in the next 20 years, how many fires he's going to go to, the whole kit that comes with being a rookie to, a senior man to middle man, just everything. The whole thing, man. It's still, despite all of the problems we're facing, and I think a lot of people, like your first question, what are the problems? What are this? This is still the best job I ever had.
Hell yes.
To quote the movie, best job I ever had. It will always be. I will never stray anybody away from it. I may stray people away from jobs or organizations, but as a whole, This job taught me more about life. I don't remember who said that recently, but it was like, I learned to be a man on the fire department. I started at 19 years old. I learned to change brakes in a firehouse bay. There's so many things about life lessons in general that this job taught me that you can't replace. So to be able to take that kid that's 18, 19 years old and watch him move through his career is I'm just now getting to the point where I've got guys that are coming on the job young with, how's this work?
Yeah, you have more time on the job than they've been alive.
Yes,
I know. That recently started happening to me, and I'm like, holy shit, what's going on?
What year were you born?
Yeah.
Holy shit. But it's awesome. And I want to see their passion. I want to give them the passion that I had at that age, but also give them, that things aren't going to come to you for free. If you want to know more about the engine, you go out and wash that engine for the engineer and then go back in and ask them some questions. That's your payment. Take care of the guys above you. They will share their knowledge with you. That kind of thing. I think that's what excites me most. Because what disappoints me most is not going to fires as much, so it's kind of like, it's the opposite end of that. So I love seeing the new guys come in the door that just have no clue what the next 20 to 30 years are going to hold for them.
I love that.
And I'm halfway through, maybe a little more than halfway through now. And, I still love going to work. It's the best job ever.
It is, man. No, absolutely. And I want to be clear. Max points on question 1 because I love the lack of war as an answer. Max points on number 2 because I don't think I've heard that. I've heard I'm excited about the younger generation. I've heard I'm excited about young kids coming into the job. But your laying out of why and what they have in store for them is beautiful because you described I hired on when I was 20 years old, and you just described I became a man in the fire service.
Oh, dude. I mean, there's things that
100%
we can't talk about.
Yeah, 100%.
Might get some of us put in jail, but it's part of growing up. There's just so much great stuff that is going to come from this job, and I'm still excited every day that there's going to be something I'm going to see Saturday that is just going to blow my doors off. I'm sure there's no telling what's going to happen. So it's good.
Question 3: best rank or position to be in the fire service?
I had a hard time. I got a hard time with this one.
Okay.
There isn't a bad spot, I don't think. I think for a while being a semi-senior fireman downtown kind of sucked because you're ready to kind of make that next move, but maybe you're between tests. You have to go, like where we were, you had to go fill in a lot and get detailed out to different companies, and you go get stuck with a shit company for 24 hours, and you're having to go make 4 stops they don't eat together. So you're like, hey man, will you run me to Wendy's? And they drop you off at Wendy's first. Then they make 3 more stops for the other guys, and you come back and you're eating a cold cheeseburger in the station. It's terrible. So, man, I had a blast driving. I think was probably one of my favorite. It's still got to be my favorite position. A lot of guys piss and moan about driving an engine because they're running all the calls, and they're like, man, I want to be inside fighting fire. I'm like, yeah, but I also like smoking other companies into their first alarm. I like seeing how many lines I could get on the ground. I wanted to max that engine out
right on
every time I could. The one-line fires or room and contents are the ones I hated. I'm like, a monkey could pump a one-line fire. Right. So that part was fun. I was very blessed to drive a TDA for a number of years, and that's just the coolest thing you can do with your pants on. I think I've made that reference a few different times, but it's you can't beat that, especially down Peachtree Street. That's just, man, it was an experience I'll never forget. I love being an officer on an engine. There's the one thing that you can guarantee as a boss on an engine is you're going in. You're getting all the work because the way I operated and the way that my bosses taught me is I was the first one through the door. I'd grab the guy by the nozzle, by the shoulder, and drug him down the hall and put him where I needed him to go. So you're getting work. I'm not getting stuck as a control guy at the front door shoving hose in and watching everybody else come out all covered in gravy. I'm always going to be inside. The 2 guys in the back rotated. So that was always fun. And then, being a truck boss is to me, man, I loved it all. I really, again, my favorite by a tiny amount was driving, I think.
Okay.
You get to say, as a driver, you get to say all the shit the captain can't. He kind of look at me and be like, you know what you need to tell this motherfucker, right? And you have to say all that without getting in trouble. I was his voice,
Yeah, no, absolutely. There you go. Driver, I agree with you, man. There is not a bad position in the fire service because it's the best job I ever had, man. So how do you pick one? So it's a tough one.
Driving was cool because I still say my job as an officer is exponentially easier with a very competent driver. They make my job easy, and that dude's got more responsibility on the fire ground than anybody there. I don't care how many cross bugles you got. If he fucks up, the whole operation goes out the window, especially an engine driver. So you've got all the responsibility, more responsibility than anybody else on that scene, in my opinion. But you also have the easiest job in the world. You go out there in the morning, have a cup of coffee, wash the rig. I liked washing it by myself. That was my thing. And I'd wash down the front ramp. I don't know why I always did that. It's just I'm OCD is probably why, but have a cup of coffee. That was my zen. Wash down the front ramp, check the rig off, and then I'm chilling the rest of the day. The guys are, I get on the rig, I get them to where they need to go at sometimes a high rate of speed. And it was fun, man. I had a blast. I had a couple lieutenants that I drove that it was my mission every run, especially a fire run, to just absolutely scare the shit out of them. And I got a few of them, and then you get a little bit older and realize that all those extra parts you're finding under the fire truck from the shop, those are bolts that belong in there. You can probably slow it down a little bit, So it was a lot of fun.
Love it. Best advice you ever received?
Another. I got a lot of good ones, but my first battalion chief I had when I hired on was like, "Hey, just remember one thing." He's like, "It's not your emergency. If you lose your shit and get caught up in the mix of the emergency itself, you're no good to anybody to the people that called you. So, pull yourself back from whatever it is that's going on. If you've got the ones that I think are the hardest to remove yourself from, anything with kids, obviously, is you can throw that out the window. You can't pull yourself out of that, especially as a parent.
Right.
Fatal car wrecks are always a tough one for me, especially multiples. Yeah, those ones are the hard ones to me. But you got to pull yourself back from it, get your job done. Don't focus on just do what you got to do and work it out later. And the best way you can.
Yeah, no, that's tough. And then final question, number 5. Heavy fire and searchable space. Would you rather be assigned to the nozzle or first in on VES?
I want to be the truck boss on that one. I want to be going in. I want to be the first one in the door, first one through the window. That's to me, again, such a hard. I just want to be inside. I want to be.
Just get me inside.
You can stick me on the nozzle. You can put me on the roof with a saw. You can put me as a first hole through the door. First one through the door or through the window off of 24. I just want to be there. I don't care. I don't want to be on the plug. I don't want to be standing there charging the hydrant. That's not my thing. But if you can put me, within 10 feet with some good assignment on a fire ground, I'm good. But to your point, the floor above, that's where it's at, man. That's the hairy spot. It's the most fun with the most complex tactical decisions that have to be made, I think. And especially short-staffed, which I think a lot of people are. Trying to get that coordinated and getting multiple rooms searched with literally no people quickly. Again, floor above is the worst place for anybody to be, including us. That's fun to me. And figuring that out and getting it done quick and getting a good search in that's to me that's what makes me smile on the way home.
Beautiful answer. Beautiful way to wrap it up, too. Makes you smile on the way home. Love it. Max points on number 5 for sure. There it is. The 5 questions for firefighters, according to Danny Dwyer. And that is officially 111. The 111st scrap is in the books. If someone wants to get a hold of you, what's the best way to do so for more info or anything like that?
Social media, of course. I'm terrible. When this whole thing kicked off, last year, I got an influx of friend requests. I'm like, oh, this is cool. I'm like, boom, 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 just going through friend requesting everybody. Next thing you know, my news feed's filled with people's kids. I have no idea who they are, So I was like, all right, I got to start. So if I don't answer your friend request, bear with me. But shoot me a message on Facebook, Instagram, email is pretty easy. It's tailboard10@gmail. That's it, man. I do my level best to answer everybody I can. It might be a few days, but I don't think I've not returned an email, text, or Facebook message yet. I absolutely try and get to them all.
Right on.
Yeah.
Yeah, Coda, his social media director.
Oh, Cato, my man. That guy's something else. He and I are on the job together now, and you talk about one highly motivated individual. That man is it. So he's where it's at.
Good deal, man.
And he's my social media director, so you can also hit up Cato if you need.
There you go. Yeah, he's in the chat. Dustin is talking about something about Wendy's being gone, but I don't know what that's about.
Oh, I think he's referencing the Wendy's that burned down last year.
Gotcha. Okay.
So,
some sort of inside joke.
Shout out to Dustin. I appreciate the book reference. He's been he and I when did we meet officially? I think we were friends on Facebook. We met at a benefit for a friend of ours that passed away from cancer a couple of years ago, I think, is where we officially met. We became buddies and bounced a lot of stuff off each other. And so big shout out to him. Thank you for everything. And you're doing a great job with Cancel the Squad. You come up with some fantastic content. So if you're not following him on Instagram yet, you should.
Awesome. Firehouse Vigilance. I don't even remember everything else I had to say. The coins are out. They're almost sold out. So if you want to get one. They're pretty. If it'll snap into
focus. Those are nice.
It may snap into focus at some point.
Yeah.
But the back side, or the front side, I should say. There it goes. Anyway, they're almost sold out. A couple dozen left, I think. So if you want one, jump on firehousevigilance.com. I don't know, with supply chain issues, I guess there's something going on with supply chain. Getting stuff is tough.
It's a new buzzword for like the last month, right?
No doubt. Next up, Kevin Lewis. He was in here tonight. We're going to be talking to him on I'm looking at my chart, the 13th of November, followed by Julio Ramos on the 17th, followed by Chief Mo Davis on the 23rd for the turkey edition of the Scrap.
And I will not miss that one.
No, I'm excited, man.
It
took a while to get him here. What else do I got?
Got it.
I'm heading to Arkansas for the First In Conference this weekend with Mo Davis and Scott Thompson and Kyle Romagus. I'm forgetting people. I'm sure I don't mean to. Sean Duffy, I think, is there. And if I'm getting stuff mixed up, I'm sorry. If you see me at the conference, get a picture because I love Mutts Don't Scrap pictures. I will keep doing this until we're closer to Christmas. If you shop on Amazon, click Amazon Smile and go put Next Rung as your charity.
Absolutely.
And support it. It's a great, great organization. If you know someone who wants to have bunker gear hanging in the background, I'm looking for bunker gear to wear when I go and teach. And Danny Dwyer, you were an unbelievably good guest today.
Man, I appreciate it. Let me say something quick about Blake Stinnett and Next Rung. That guy is unlike any person I've ever met. Blake and I met, I think it was on my birthday, I think, last year in March. What he's doing with Next Rung is wow. It's hard to mix words with that one, but hell of a guy, absolutely phenomenal project. The Amazon Smile thing, I did it a couple of weeks ago. Super, super easy. I hope he's getting a little, some change there from that. But what he's doing is helped me in my personal life and stuff. So Blake, thank you very much. And, full disclaimer also on the Cancel the Squad thing. I can't confirm or deny whether Dustin is really running that or not, but I think we all know what's going on there.
Fair enough. No, Blake is and again, he's not associated with the Scrap in any way, shape, or form other than I love what he does and I love him. So, Georgia's being represented well.
Good. Yeah, I'm glad.
Other than, brother, I can't wait to meet you again, and it'll be good times. I don't know if it'll be Wichita or where it'll be next, but
I hope it's somewhere. I hope it's sooner than that, but we'll see where this whole thing takes us both.
Audience, Thank you guys for the best questions in the business. It's so much fun. You guys are what makes the scrap so entertaining, and mutts don't scrap, so that's why it's so awesome. Bottom line is, I hope the tone stays silent unless it's burning. Stay safe out there, everyone.